Title: The Alpha King flogged me till I fainted. The court's whispers were snakes, coiling around me as the guards forced me to my knees. Before me sat the Alpha King, Kael, more beast than man. They said he was merciless, that his heart was carved from ice and his soul forged in a winter storm. I was Elara, a tribute from a broken land, a nobody in his world of savage power. I had defied him, and now, I was his public example. As he rose from his obsidian throne, the scent of pine and pure, undiluted fury choked the air in the grand hall. I lifted my chin in a final act of defiance. I would not break. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of my tears. But as his colossal shadow fell over me, something flickered in his storm-gray eyes. It wasn't just rage, but a flash of shocked, bewildered recognition. For a split second, the predator in his gaze was silenced by something else, something ancient and raw. Then, it was gone. The first lash of the silver whip fell, and my world exploded in searing, white-hot pain. What I didn't know then was that his brutal attempt to break me would be the very thing that would bind us. His punishment awakened a dangerous, fated connection that threatened not only my life, but his heavily guarded throne. If you love intense paranormal romance, make sure to like and subscribe for more audiobooks, just like this one. Section 1, The Defiance, It all started with a broken cup. A young girl, no older than 12 and another tribute like me, was serving the king's council. Her hands trembled so badly that a porcelain cup slipped, shattering on the marble floor. A cold, absolute silence fell over the hall. Lord Valerius, the king's most venomous advisor, sneered. Such clumsiness is an insult to the king's hospitality. She requires discipline. King Kael's gaze was hard as granite, his voice a low growl that promised violence. Take her to the dungeons. Something inside me snapped. I knew what happened to tributes taken to the dungeons. They came back broken, if they came back at all. Before I could think, I stood. She's just a child, I said, my voice ringing with a clarity that shocked even me. It was an accident. Punish me in her place. Every head in the hall turned toward me. To speak without being spoken to was unthinkable. To challenge a command from the Alpha King himself. That was a death sentence. Kael's eyes narrowed, pinning me in place. He rose slowly, every movement radiating lethal power, and walked down the steps from his throne. His presence was a physical force pushing against my chest, as he circled me like a wolf examining its prey. You wish to take her punishment? He asked, his voice deceptively soft. You, a tribute, dare to bargain with me? I met his gaze. I dare to have a shred of decency, I whispered, the words sealing my fate. His lip curled back in a snarl, revealing the tips of his canines. So be it, he roared. You want to be a martyr? I'll make you a spectacle. And he dragged me to the ritual circle in the center of the hall for all to see. Section 2, The Awakening, Pain was the last thing I remembered. Blinding, all-consuming agony that finally dragged me into the sweet abyss of unconsciousness. But I didn't wake to the cold, damp stone of a dungeon floor. I woke to the impossible softness of silk sheets and the scent of mountain herbs. My eyes fluttered open to a canopy of rich, dark wood above me. I was in a bed. A magnificent, king-sized bed, in a chamber so opulent it could only belong to royalty. I tried to sit up, but a gasp tore from my throat as my back screamed in protest. The wounds were there, a lattice of fire across my skin, but the pain was dull. Muted. I looked down and saw my torn rags had been replaced with a soft, linen nightgown. My wounds were clean, covered in a thick, shimmering balm that pulsed with a faint warmth. It felt like life itself was being poured back into me. An elderly she-wolf, her face a mask of nervous reverence, scurried into the room with a tray of water and bread. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Where am I?" I croaked, my throat raw. "The king's personal chambers, miss," she mumbled, setting the tray down and backing away, as if I were on fire. "The king?" I was bewildered. "Why?" "He commanded it," she whispered, her eyes wide with a fear that wasn't for me, but for her Alpha. "No one understands. He was like a madman after you fainted. Carried you here himself. Threatened anyone who dared to question it." Before I could ask more, she bowed hastily and fled, leaving me alone in the heart of my tormentor's den. Alone with the terrifying, inexplicable feeling of a golden thread humming in the air, pulling me toward the very man who had nearly killed me. Section 3, The Confrontation, Later that night, the chamber doors burst open, slamming against the stone walls. Alpha King Kael stood there, framed by the darkness, his chest heaving. This wasn't the cold, controlled monarch from the throne room. This was a wild thing, his eyes burning with a chaotic mix of fury and utter confusion. He strode into the room, the air crackling with his untamed power. "What did you do to me?" he growled, the sound vibrating deep in my bones. I shrank back against the headboard, my heart hammering my ribs. "I did nothing." "Liar," he roared, stalking closer until he loomed over the bed. "The moment the whip struck your skin, something happened. My wolf, it recognized you." He ran a hand through his dark hair in pure frustration. "It's screaming a word I've refused to acknowledge my entire life. Mate star." The word hung in the air between us, as shocking and violent as the lash itself. Fated mate. The one soul in all the world created to complete another. It was a sacred, unbreakable bond. A bond he had just desecrated with his own hand. I stared at him, shock warring with a tidal wave of rage. "You flogged me until I fainted," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "You brutalized me in front of your entire court. And now you dare to speak to me of fate? Of being your mate? Is this how the great Alpha King treats his other half?" His face contorted in a mask of self-loathing. "I don't want a mate," he spat, his voice laced with a pain so deep it was almost tangible. "A mate is a weakness. A vulnerability an enemy can exploit. It's how my father, the great King Theron, was brought down. His enemies used his mate, my mother, to break him. I swore I would never suffer the same fate. I've built my entire reign on absolute, solitary strength." He looked at me then, his gaze filled with a terrifying conflict. "And now you appear. A defiant, worthless tribute. Fate has mocked me by giving me you star." Section 4, The Whispers of a Threat, Word of the tribute girl in the king's chambers spread through the castle like wildfire. The court became a viper's nest of whispers and speculation. Had the king gone soft? Was I a sorceress who had ensnared him? Or, the most dangerous whisper of all, was I his fated mate? Lord Valerius, his face a constant mask of shrewd ambition, watched the chaos with gleaming eyes. This was the opportunity he'd been waiting for. He began sowing seeds of dissent. In the training yards, he spoke of a king distracted. In council meetings, he questioned Kael's harsh, but predictable judgment, suggesting it was now erratic, clouded by a female. An alpha's strength is in his certainty, Valerius would say to the other lords, his voice dripping with false concern. Our king's certainty seems to have been broken by a mere slip of a girl. How can he protect this pack from our enemies if he can't control his own chambers? Kael felt the shift in loyalty. He felt the eyes on his back. He was trapped. Every instinct he'd honed for years told him to cast me out, to finish what he started and prove his strength. But his wolf, the primal beast inside him, snarled at the very thought. It clawed at the inside of his chest, demanding he go to me, protect me, claim me. He was a king at war with himself, and his throne was beginning to tremble. His obsession with me, born of hate or the bond, was becoming the very weakness he feared. Section 5, The Unraveling, Lord Valerius decided to force the king's hand. During a royal feast, he made his move, approaching the high table where Kael sat brooding. He held up a ceremonial dagger. "My king," he announced, his voice carrying across the silent hall. "The court worries for your stability. This tribute has brought a shadow over your reign. Allow me to remove this distraction. A small cut, a mark of impurity, to show she is nothing more than property, and to remind everyone where the true power lies." He turned toward me, where I stood behind the king's chair like a trophy. His eyes were cruel, promising pain. The guards tensed but did nothing, their loyalty wavering, unsure of their king's command. For a heartbeat, Kael was frozen, his face a battleground of icy duty and molten rage. But as Valerius took a step toward me, dagger raised, something primal and unstoppable broke loose. In a blur of motion, Kael was on his feet. A guttural roar tore from his throat that wasn't human. It was the sound of a possessive alpha protecting what was his. He backhanded Valerius, sending him sprawling. He moved to stand in front of me, shielding me with his body, his storm grey eyes glowing with an amber light. Mine, the word wasn't spoken. It was a seismic blast of pure power, a claim made with the soul of his wolf that every supernatural being in the castle felt in their bones. He had claimed me. Publicly. Irrevocably. A gasp of shock and fear swept the hall. Lord Valerius, clutching his jaw, simply smiled. He'd won. He had forced the king to declare his weakness to the world. What do you think Lord Valerius will do now that he has the proof he needs to challenge the throne? Let us know your predictions in the comments below. Section 6, The Bond Solidified, The feast ended in chaos. In the deafening silence after his claim, Kael grabbed my arm, his touch firm, but no longer brutal, and dragged me from the hall back to his chambers. He slammed the door, and for the first time, I saw not a king or a beast, but a man who was cornered. "Do you see what you've done?" he seethed, though the accusation had no real heat. He planned this. Valerius needed to prove I was compromised. By claiming you, I've handed him the sword to slit my own throat. He paced the room, a caged lion. They'll challenge me now. They'll say the bond has made me weak. Then prove them wrong, I said quietly, taking a hesitant step toward him. You think the bond is a weakness? What if it's a weapon? He stopped, staring at me. He walked over slowly, his eyes tracing the fading marks on my skin, which were healing at an impossible rate. It had to be the balm, and, I now suspected, the bond itself. He reached out, his calloused fingers hesitating, before gently brushing a spot on my shoulder. A jolt, electric and warm, shot through us both. My father's enemies captured my mother, he said, his voice raw with a memory he'd likely never spoken aloud. They tortured her, and her pain drove him mad through their bond. He walked right into a trap to save her, and they slaughtered him. His gaze was haunted. Love is a vulnerability I can't afford. Or maybe, I countered, finding a strength I never knew I had. His love was his strength, but he was alone. You aren't. As I spoke, a warmth spread from my palm, glowing with a faint, golden light. I placed my hand over his shoulder. The remaining sting of the wound vanished completely, replaced by a soothing calm that seeped into him as well. We both stared at my hand, at the dormant power the bond had awakened in me. He was a king of fury and might. I was something else entirely. Not a weakness, but a balance. Conclusion, Kael looked from my hand to my eyes, and the war inside him finally stilled. The fear was still there, but now it was overshadowed by a dawning, dangerous acceptance. He had tried to break a nobody, and had instead found the missing half of his soul. Valerius and the council would come for his throne, using me as the excuse. But they had made a fatal miscalculation. They assumed I was the king's weakness. They had no idea I was about to become his greatest weapon. Our story wasn't just about a king and his tribute. It was about a savage Alpha and his fated queen, and we were just getting started. Thank you for listening, Pack. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for all the latest dark and fated romance stories.